Peterson off the hook on gun charges tonight. Just moments ago, an Illinois judge totally dismissing felony gun charges against Drew Peterson.
A new state law was overwhelmingly approved by the Illinois House, allowing so-called hearsay evidence from witnesses who may have been murdered by a defendant trying to stop them from testifying. This means prosecutors have a new weapon in the investigation into Drew Peterson, who has been named a suspect in the disappearance of his fourth wife, Stacy. A minister has said Stacy told him Drew Peterson had killed his third wife, Kathleen Savio, whose death is now being called a homicide by authorities. State's Attorney Glasgow says the new law is very powerful and was passed with the intention of helping women who have been abused.
Obviously, we're very pleased. We believe that, the only real reason that the state would have not wanted to turn over the documents is because they would have helped us. Otherwise, if they would have been no help, I'm assuming they would have gladly turned them over. And we believe the judge assessed the proper sanction, which is dismissal. And the case, we're confident that if the state chooses to appeal, will be upheld, and this case will be over with.
Newsflash, it's not going to be upheld. The Judge Richard Schoenstedt, had a little hair fit in court today because the prosecution would not do what he told them to. But the prosecutors don't work for the judge any more than the defense does. So when the prosecutor is told by the judge, hand over your whole file, your work product, everything, all your direct examination questions you've prepared, your scientific arguments, the outline of your opening statement handed over right now. And the prosecution says no, and what did the judge do? He dropped all the charges against Drew Peterson. Now, that's a fine kettle of fish, Judge Richard Schoenstedt. Out to the lawyers, Eleanor Dixon, Peter Odom, Richard Herman. I'm coming right back to you, but first to Joe Hosey with the Herald News, author of Fatal Vows, in court today. Joe, what happened?
Like you said, Nancy, the judge dropped the charges. He ordered the prosecutors to turn over internal documents, memoranda, and the like, so that they could establish whether or not this was a vindictive prosecution, and the Assistant State's Attorney John Connor refused to do so. He risked going to jail himself for doing that. He could have been held in contempt, and the judge decided to dismiss the case.
You know what? I hope my path crosses with John Connor someday. I want to shake his hand. To you, Eleanor Dixon, current felony prosecutor in Atlanta, that is complete BS. You cannot force the state to hand over their work product. When I say work product, I'm talking about your legal research, everything you've done on the case, your interview notes with your witnesses. The defense doesn't have a right to that any more than the state has a right to the defense notes. What the answer should have been, Eleanor, in my mind, correct me if you think differently, is for Judge Richard Schoenstedt to get off his bench and review the file himself. See if there's evidence to support a genuine prosecution or if this is selective prosecution of Drew Peterson. Right, wrong?
Oh, you're exactly right, Nancy. They can take it in chambers, look at it, do what's called an in-camera inspection.
Yes.
And you know what? I bet he didn't ask the defense attorney to turn over his work product.
You know, this is a blow to the state, but from my understanding, to Derek Armstrong, author of Drew Peterson Exposed, hours of interviews with Peterson. Derek, I understand that the grand jury is about to hand down a murder charge on wife number 3, Kathleen Savio, who drowned in a dry bathtub, covered in bruises. I guess you saw that autopsy report.
Yes, I believe they are. I have an inside source who's indicated to me that if charges weren't filed today, or indictment didn't come down today, they would imminently be coming down.
Richard Herman, try to take off your defense hat just for a moment. You know a judge cannot order the state to hand over its entire file to the defense, or vice versa.
Well, there is open file discovery, Nancy, and they were claiming...
Not in that jurisdiction.
They were claiming a vindictive prosecution.
There's not open file in that jurisdiction, okay? Number one. So let's get off that incorrect premise. But go ahead.
The issue was whether or not it was a vindictive prosecution against Peterson, which it absolutely was. And as a result of that, the judge made a direction, which the district attorney chose not to comply with. That's okay. He's not going to appeal the case. It's not dismissed with prejudice. They can bring it back.
They are appealing it. They are taking it up.
When they indict him for murder, they're going to add this into, and then they'll turn over their documents down the road.
Peter Odom?
The prosecution doesn't work for the judge, Nancy, but the prosecution should be working for the people. This judge realized that the prosecution was doing something unfair to the people.
Which was?
And vindictively prosecuting Drew Peterson for this crime.
I want to see Odom's face.
And the judge had
you really believe that?
Yes, I do. And the judge had every right to ask for that file. And nothing shows that more clearly, Nancy, than the fact that they wouldn't turn over the file.
Peter, when you were prosecuting, did you give open file to the defense?
If the judge asked me to turn something over, Nancy, even if I didn't like it,
would you?
If the judge told me to turn something over, I would.
SOP, standard operating procedure, unless you had a judge's order, would you give open file, all your work product?
Not only would I give open file work product, not work product, because that's privilege, but open file discovery, yes, and I'd invite the defense attorney
you just said
into my
when
office
the judge
to
told
make sure.
you to. How about when the judge didn't tell you to?
My notes, Nancy, no, and no attorney would turn over notes and work product. However, if a judge told me to do so, I would have to, even if I didn't like it. And the fact that they didn't turn them over is suspect in my view.
A judge, you listen to every nut job judge down there on the Fulton County bench. You think they know the law better than you? They're appointed by the governor, all right? Just like every other jurisdiction, and then maybe run for re-election someday. It's on you to know the law and give it to the judge. Don't let some nut job tell you what the law is. Hold on. We'll pick this back up. Candace Aiken is Stacey Peterson's aunt. Miss Aiken, thank you for being with us. What do you make of Peterson's decision to divorce Stacey Peterson?
I think it's kind of late for that. She wanted one like 13 months ago. So it's kind of late for that now. I don't think she's around to be able to divorce him.
Why do you think he is seeking a divorce at this juncture?
I'm really not sure what he's thinking. Maybe, I don't know.
To Bethany Marshall, psychoanalyst and author, what do you make of it?
I think Drew Peterson always, in his own mind, thinks he comes off looking like the good guy. So if he paints a picture to the public that his wife took off with another man, what is he going to do? Wringing his hands, all he can do is file for divorce. It makes him look fantastic in a really very miserable situation.
Do you think the story of this divorce might encourage Stacey to contact you?
I have nothing more to say.
Well, what about the rumors that the state's attorney is getting ready to indict for homicide on one of your wives?
Yeah, I told you nothing to say.